I'm Ireland Viscount, and coming up next on WVU News, I'll tell you about one of the new COVID-19 variants that has reached the United States. According to a study by Northwestern University, nearly 1 in 4 households experienced food insecurity in 2020. I'm Jillian Winoski, and I'm going to show you how one local art gallery wants to change that.
In this political climate where every vote matters, I'll tell you about an election where you have another opportunity to cast a ballot. I'm Zach Hawk, and our Emmy Award-winning WVU News starts now. The 2020 presidential election reminded us how much our votes count. And now the city of Morgantown is taking measures to put democracy back into voters' hands. I'm Zach Hawk.
And I'm Jillian Winoski. This pandemic has led to many people being unable to get food and medicine they need to survive. How are Morgantown residents coping with this new normal?
These stories and more on WVU News, an Emmy Award-winning newscast produced by television journalism students right here at West Virginia University.
Zach, in these divided political times, elections have become more important than ever.
That's right, Jillian. And when there are such slim margins, every vote counts. And the city of Morgantown is taking steps toward giving voters more power. Municipal elections will be held in Morgantown on April 27th. Voters will decide if term limits for city council will change. Local voter Betty May is glad to have this choice.
It makes us Americans who we are, because we have the freedom to vote. Whereas in a lot of countries, you don't get to vote. You don't get to have that freedom. So we should exercise, as American citizens, our right to vote.
The referendum proposes the current 2-year terms changed to 4-year staggered terms. Morgantown City Clerk Christine Wade explains why this might be beneficial.
Executives in public administration have suggested that longer terms provide stable policy and efficient management of public staff and resources, and better handling of long-term and complex problems.
You can learn more about this referendum by visiting morgantownwv.gov and clicking on Government, City Council, Referendum for Changing Council Terms. The city is hoping to see increased turnout this year to decide this measure and the normal council elections.
Our voter registration has increased, so we're happy to report that, but I think that we can do better.
The voter registration deadline is April 6th, and you may vote by absentee ballot, early in person, or in person on April 27th. According to a 2018 nationwide poll, an overwhelming 82% of voters approve of term limits for elected officials.
That's really interesting, Zach. Well, West Virginia is leading the nation in COVID-19 vaccination distribution. But with new strains of the virus emerging, some people are wondering, is the vaccine enough to protect us?
Ireland Viscount joins us now in the studio with her bi-weekly segment on the coronavirus crisis. Ireland?
Thanks, Jillian and Zach. Doctors say that the virus that causes COVID-19 changes all the time, but experts say there's no reason to panic about the new strains that have hit the U.S. There are currently 3 variants of COVID-19, one from the UK, another from South Africa, and one from Brazil. I took a closer look at the UK variant, and here's what I found. This new COVID-19 variant was identified in the U.S. in December. According to a recent calculation study, this new strain could become the dominant strain as early as March. Morgantown resident Anna Campbell tells us about how she is fearful for the elders.
My grandparents are in their 80s. My grandma has COPD, so it's one of those things where if she goes out and gets infected with COVID-19, it could really be detrimental to her.
Even though this new strand is spreading quickly in the United States, it has not yet been detected in West Virginia. So make sure to keep taking your zinc and vitamin D and following the COVID-19 guidelines put in place. It is projected that more than 530,000 people in the U.S. may die by the end of this month due to COVID-19. This would mean there would be 1 death for every minute since the pandemic started. Josh Pickett, an ICU nurse at Ruby Memorial Hospital, explains what he sees on a day-to-day basis at work.
Watching these people have to really die alone, basically. Obviously, we're there with them, but it's obviously no way anybody wants their family to go. So it's sad to see that kind of things happen.
Researchers say this new strain of COVID-19 from the UK is even more deadly than the one we are battling now.
Doctors say there are as many as a dozen COVID-19 strains circulating worldwide. Scientists are testing the current vaccine against these new strands, and even though it's too early to tell, research shows that while the current vaccines may not be as effective on these new strains, it can prevent severe cases of COVID-related hospital stays and even deaths.
Thanks, Ireland, for that report. Here in West Virginia, 1 out of 10 people have diabetes, and across America, 34 million have it and don't even know it.
That's right, Jillian. But a bill in the Mountain State is in the works to lower the cost of diabetic supplies. Health reporter Sean McAllister explains.
Just 1 year after a bill was passed to lower the cost of insulin, another bill has been proposed by delegates in the West Virginia legislature, this time to cap co-pays for diabetic supplies at $25, which for people with diabetes like Madison Ramirez is vital.
You know, if you can't afford your insulin, especially for a type 1 diabetic, since we are insulin dependent, I mean, that's like my lifeline. You know, if I don't have that insulin, then I'm potentially going to end up in the hospital and die.
This new bill will include markdowns on supplies like testing strips and non-insulin medicines, which Madison uses every day.
You have to have your test strips to test your blood sugar, and sometimes I know that those can be a hassle for people to get. And if you can't test your blood sugar, how are you ever going to know what it is?
According to the state's Department of Health and Human Resources, more than 1 in 10 adults in West Virginia have diabetes. The supplies needed to treat this disease are often expensive, leaving many across the Mountain State to choose between paying for their medicine or their groceries each month.
In the United States, healthcare functions as a free market. So the government has no control regulation on the prices, and the companies do whatever they want.
Dr. Misra recommends patients maintain a healthy diet and frequent exercise, along with educating themselves about the disease. The legislature will come to a decision during this session, which began on February 10th. Sean McAllister, WVU News, Morgantown.
Diabetes medications aren't the only thing people are struggling to get their hands on during the pandemic.
According to the Mountaineer Food Bank, nearly 250,000 people struggle with hunger in West Virginia. I caught up with a new art gallery owner whose mission is combating food insecurity.
While millions of businesses are struggling during the pandemic, here's one that's thriving. Eli and Rachel Pollard opened a Galactic Panther art gallery in December with hopes of donating to local food charities.
It's the right thing to do. And it's the right time to do it because this is a difficult time for the whole country. And West Virginia was having a hard time already. And you throw Corona on top of it, post-coal, during Corona, and it's time to act.
The gallery has donated to several pantries, including Pantry Plus More. And with 1 in 7 people struggling with hunger in West Virginia, they are always looking for more ways to help.
We often take our food for granted, but nearly 23% of households in the U.S. didn't know where their next meal was coming from in 2020.
Pantry Plus More Executive Director Tom Bloom said their organization served around 100 families during their major food giveaways. Now they're up to 350.
We have this image that every one of these people who need food are some poor, desolate, drug-related individual, and they're not at all. Many of us are like you and I, are one paycheck away from it.
Pollard said he too experienced food insecurity as an artist while caring for his family.
I've been the guy that had the kid who also needed to you get medicine that's way overpriced that you can't afford, or you get the food.
The gallery is just an example of how businesses can help decrease food insecurity.
You can visit the gallery from 4 to 7:30 p.m. on Wednesdays through Fridays.
The COVID-19 pandemic has forced millions of Americans to just stay home, and this means video sharing apps like TikTok has seen a spike in users, almost 700 million monthly users to be exact.
The result of this surge means that teens across America are turning to TikTok to learn more about the stock market. Social Square anchor Elena Dagenhart joins us now to explain. Elena?
Thanks, Jillian. Zach, viral posts are popping up all over the social media app with hundreds of users posting videos on TikTok encouraging people to invest in the stock market for companies like GameStop. And they're using graphs and even memes to explain the GameStop surge. GameStop and other companies are currently making news after teens take to social media sites like TikTok to encourage investing. The popular trading application called Robinhood is being used to invest in these stocks. Professor of Finance at WVU, Alexander Curvo, believes that GameStop investing could be risky.
GameStop is trying to make some changes. As I mentioned, investing in companies in this category can be pretty risky, but it also offers large potential reward if things do work out.
This graph from Apptopia shows just how much Robinhood has spiked since January 24th in growth. As of February 2021, there is currently 1.1 billion users on TikTok, and over 600 million people have viewed the hashtag GameStop. One TikTok user from WVU has over 78,000 views on his video explaining stocks, and often uses TikTok because of the convenience.
I think it could be a great platform in learning how to invest. Easy to find accounts that specialize in stocks, or even just learn how to manage your money. Videos are free to watch and short in length. You can learn a lot in a short amount of time.
One study shows that 28% of American adults bought GameStop stock or other viral stock in January alone. GameStop is up more than 150%. Now remember, before this TikTok frenzy, GameStop was struggling. In recent months, it has seen an 8,000% increase in its stock. To put that in perspective, stock that was once bought for $35 a share has risen to $325 per share.
Thanks, Elena. The stock market isn't the only thing seeing record highs and lows. Coming up after the break, Claire O'Neill joins us from Studio B to tell us how online dating has changed during the pandemic.
And sports anchor Eden Douglas will introduce us to one WVU wrestler who's in the spotlight.
I'm Eden Douglas, and coming up next on WVU News, I'll tell you about a Mountaineer wrestler and West Virginia native who has made history here in Morgantown.
When we started our journey, we had no idea where it would lead us. Until we found a place where experiences became a way of life, and connections became unbreakable bonds. For us, it's a second home, and wherever we roam, it will always be a part of us. The place we became Mountaineers.
A WVU wrestler and West Virginia native is making history in Morgantown.
Our sports anchor Eden Douglas is here to tell us more about a WVU All-American athlete. Eden?
Thanks, Zach. Jillian. WVU redshirt junior Noah Adams has a 3-time state champion in high school, and his success continues here in Morgantown. Adams was named a 2020 NCAA Wrestling All-American and is a Big 12 champion. He's only the second wrestler in Mountaineer history to have an undefeated season and win a championship.
West Virginia native and WVU wrestler Noah Adams has made history within the Mountaineer wrestling program. Although his win streak ends at 39, head wrestling coach Tim Flynn says Noah's one loss does not determine the rest of the season.
It's a big boy sport, it's not for babies, so you got to pick yourself up, figure out what went wrong and fix it. And he did that.
The 197-pound competitor is the second in West Virginia University wrestling history to win a Big 12 title. Noah Adams is also the second wrestler to have an undefeated season since Greg Jones in 2005.
Especially coming from a smaller part of the state down south, I think it just shows that it doesn't really matter where you come from, but it's about what you do in your training, how hard you want to work, and the people you're surrounded with. So it means a lot for me, and I think it means a lot to the state as well.
The Coal City, West Virginia native says he still has a job to do this season, and rather focusing on his record, he focuses on the match ahead.
Keeping my mind focused on the task at hand. Like Coach Flynn said, it's one thing at a time. I just have to look at it 1 week at a time and one match at a time, rather than trying to overwhelm myself and focus on that record. I should just be focused on the match in front of me.
Coach Flynn said he is working on keeping his entire team fresh for the upcoming meets.
If you want to follow along with the rest of Noah's journey as a Mountaineer, you can visit the link at the bottom of your screen.
Thanks, Eden. Dating is hard enough, even under normal conditions, Zach. Throw in a pandemic, and finding Mr. or Mrs. Right is even more of a challenge.
But Jillian, while COVID-19 has changed the way we date, there are still ways to find a compatible partner.
Claire O'Neill joins us now from Studio B at the Media Innovation Center with her segment, Storytelling with Data to Explain. Claire?
Jillian, Zach, as we're trying to adapt to our new normal, many of us are zoomed out. But the only way to meet new people safely is no longer in person, it's virtually. Dating sites are seeing a surge during the pandemic. In fact, experts say that the top 20 dating apps have gained 1.5 million daily new users in 2020. A click or a swipe. That's all it can take to meet the possible love of your life. Dating apps such as Bumble and Tinder, or websites like Match.com, have seen a spike in usage because of the challenges to meet new people during the pandemic. During the last half of 2020, dating companies like Match Group saw a 15% increase in new subscribers. College student Alexis Booth met her fiance on an app and says just what convinced her to swipe right.
He had a really big smile in all of his pictures, and not a lot of guys smile in their pictures. So that was instantly a thing that I was attached to.
For those unsure about entering the online dating scene, many sexual health educators are saying it's become a more accepted dating option.
When you think about what COVID has done to our society, I think we're experiencing a huge social shift. So the change in how we communicate with each other is happening regardless of if you're using a dating app or not.
And if someone's worried about meeting in person for a socially distanced date, apps like Bumble are offering a video chat feature to help you confidently connect with your matches. When Alexis joined Bumble, she wanted to be able to meet people outside her small town and can understand why more are doing so now.
I just think that people feel a little lonely during this time because they're not around as many people and they just want to connect. They want to have somebody by their side.
To learn more about different dating apps, make sure to read over their user agreements. And here are some interesting facts. Match.com recently surveyed over 5,000 singles, and here's what they found. 63% said they're willing to spend more time getting to know potential partners instead of rushing to just hook up. And almost 70% said they're being more honest and open in their interactions. Who knew? Back to you both at the Waterfront Studio.
Thanks, Claire. It's great to hear that people are still finding that special someone, even in the middle of a pandemic. Well, that's all for WVU News. I'm Jillian Winoski.
And I'm Zach Hawk. You can visit us online at our website. You can also watch all of our shows on YouTube. Please follow us and our reporters on Twitter. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.